In this lecture, we are going to install NodeJS. NodeJS is a program for running JavaScript on your machine without a browser. Do you remember those tools I mentioned about React? Those tools are written with JavaScript. Under the hood, they're using NodeJS to run on our machines. In order to use React, we need to install NodeJS. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the official site for NodeJS. The official description is, Node.js is a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. I want you to download the latest version. As of this course, the latest version is 18. If you find a newer version, feel free to install it. An earlier version may be available for installation. This option is available for developers who have developed their applications in older versions of Node. I've already installed Node.js on my computer. I won't be going through the default installation. Luckily, installing Node is like installing any other program. You can click Next until you're finished. During the installation process, you may be asked to install additional tools. You should opt into these tools as they'll be useful for running Node.js. Once you've installed Node, let's explore what comes with it and how you can use it. A program will be installed on your machine called NodeJS. It should look something like this. Initially, you may think this is a command prompt or terminal, but it isn't. You can't run commands inside this program. For example, if I were to run the command ls, an error would get thrown. This program is for running JavaScript without creating a file. It's a great way to test Node before getting into real code. If I were to create a variable called foo with a value of 5, the tool would output undefined. However, this variable is officially available. We can type the foo variable to view its value. Essentially, we are given an environment for running JavaScript. I'm going to exit this program. It's a fun tool, but not something we'll be using. The real power of Node is the commands, modules, and package ecosystem. For this example, let's open the command line in our editors. I'll be working in an empty directory. As a side note, you can move the command line by dragging and dropping the name to the top of the editor. In my opinion, it's easier to view commands with the terminal stretched out. The great thing about Node is that you can use it anywhere on your system. You don't have to use it in any particular folder. That means you can use it in your documents, desktop, or even Windows folder. Let's run Node in the current directory. First, let's create a file called index.js. Inside this file, let's log a message. Next, let's switch over to the command line. The command line should be pointed to your project. This is very important. Node will not work unless you're inside the same directory as your file. I'm using Visual Studio Code. It automatically points to this folder whenever I open my terminal. If you're not using Visual Studio Code, it's perfectly fine to use the command line that comes with your operating system. You may have to use the cd and ls commands to navigate to this directory. Once you're inside this directory, run the following command, node index. After running this command, our messages get logged in the command line. So, what exactly is going on? Let's take it one step at a time. Upon installing Node, a new command called node becomes available on our machines. This command allows us to run a JavaScript file on our computer. After the node command, we can provide a file to run. In our case, we are running the index file without the extension. By default, Node will assume we're executing a JavaScript file. After running this command, Node will execute the code inside our file. In this example, we're logging a message into the console. For demonstration purposes, let's check what happens when we run the command in a different directory. I'm going to move into a different directory with the cd command. Next, I'll run the node index command. Right away, an error gets thrown stating that our file can't be found. This behavior is very important to highlight. I have to be inside the same directory as the file to execute it. Otherwise, an error gets produced. In most cases, you should always be in the same directory as your JavaScript files. I'm going to move back into my project. This is a basic example of what you can do with Node. You can run JavaScript on your computer instead of a web browser. Unlike the browser, we can interact with a user's file system, create a server, or develop custom commands for the command line. The possibilities are endless. For this course, we won't be doing any of that. The reason is simple. We have PHP, Apache, and MySQL. These programs already handle creating a server and interacting with the file system. Lastly, we have WordPress, which handles the complicated technical details of running a site. It won't be necessary to let Node handle this type of functionality. As I stated earlier, the tools developed by the React team are written for Node. We must have Node installed to optimize our codebase. These tools are going to be incredibly helpful for developing Gutenberg blocks. It's time to get back into WordPress. When you're ready, I'll see you in the next lecture.